Think of that Ilhan Omar. She lives in Somalia. They don't have a government. They don't have a military. They don't have police. They don't have anything. All they have is murder and robbing ships, bringing in ships, pirates. That's stopped. Same missile, ping. That's the end of them. It's amazing how that can stop corruption. Those missiles, they never miss, you know. The same one, exactly the same one. But think of it, she comes from a country with nothing, and she comes here and she tells us about our Constitution. I have a constitutional right to rip off the country. I guess she's a total scam artist. Anybody knows it. How do you let her get away with it? AOC plus 3. She was one of the 3. They're all scammers. They're so bad for our country. They're so bad for our country.
Hey, welcome back to Freedom Insight. Today, according to the clip, Trump tore into Rep. Ilhan Omar and even floated Deport Ilhan. He says she came here, lectures Americans on the Constitution, then joked she claims a constitutional right to rip off the country. He called her a total scam artist and lumped her with AOC plus 3. In the clip, he described Somalia as nothing but pirates and murder. Look, when a president talks punishment for a sitting lawmaker, that's real pressure on institutions and regular people paying taxes, safety, and trust. Is this the start of a crackdown or just political theater with bigger fallout?
I actually spent last week in Minneapolis, and there's 2 parallel stories. I mean, there is a panic within the Somali community. They've been found out for these massive fraud schemes, daycares, transportation, fake autism services, the whole 9 yards. But the political question is very important, and my sources in Minneapolis state government say that there are open inquiries into the potential involvement at the highest level of Minnesota politics. And so I think people will be taking a hard look not only at Governor Tim Walz, but also Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and State Attorney General 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐿𝐴. We know that they have connections with convicted fraudsters. The question is, were they merely complicit in these schemes, or were they part of a broader conspiracy? We don't have strong evidence now, but I think people are starting to take a look.
Well, what we do know is that Ellison promised these guys he'd make the investigation go away, and then he got money as a donation. We know that whistleblowers alerted the Walz administration, and he didn't take any action.
Tonight, we're talking about Rep. Ilhan Omar in Minnesota, and a massive fraud story that people on the ground are saying involves daycare scams, transportation scams, and even fake autism services. The allegation is simple. Taxpayer programs got milked, politicians may have taken donations from people later convicted, and investigators are now being pushed to follow the money. Normal Americans care because when billions get stolen, your taxes don't buy what they're supposed to buy, honest families get squeezed, and faith in government drops through the floor. You're also hearing calls to denaturalize and deport her. Denaturalize means trying to revoke citizenship through a legal process, not a vibes-based slogan. So let's stick to what's being claimed and what's actually shown. First up, pay attention to how this investigation talk is being framed. Notice the specific wording about investigators and open inquiries, because that's the hook that turns internet outrage into real oversight. Also listen for what's being alleged about who in Minnesota politics might get scrutinized.
And we know a couple of these people, like Omar, got money from these convicted fraudsters as political donations. Are you saying that there could have been a conspiracy to move the welfare fraud money into their war chests?
It's certainly possible, and I think the person, and really I'm grateful for it, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has all the tools at his disposal to actually investigate the money trail, to figure out how the money flowed between these fake nonprofits and Somali fraudsters and Minnesota politicians. And I'll tell you, the atmosphere in Minneapolis was electric. I mean, people had this sense of anticipation. Something big is coming. And look, I hope they get to the bottom of it, because we're talking about, some estimates upward of $9 billion stolen. These politicians seem to, at a minimum, have turned a blind eye to the fraud, or even directed people below them to take steps so that it wasn't uncovered. This scandal is not over, and I think it could end with significant action. And again, I think Secretary Bessent is the right man for the job.
Duh. So according to that segment, there's panic within the Somali community, and the claim is that officials are starting to take a look at potential involvement at the highest level. That's not proof of guilt. It's a signal that questions are piling up and the public wants answers with names attached. When you hear Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, and Ilhan Omar all mentioned in the same breath, that tells you how wide the suspicion net is being cast. If this is nothing, then sunlight should clear it fast. Now, zero in on the part where they talk about donations, whistleblowers, and pressure to make investigations go away. That's the kind of allegation that's either totally bogus or absolutely devastating, depending on what records say. Listen to the accusation, and then listen to what they suggest as the next step. That's the core claim, that welfare-style funds got siphoned, then recycled into political power through donations and protection. The speaker even throws out an estimate upward of $9 billion stolen, and you should treat that as, according to the transcript, not a verified final tally. Still, the direction matters: who got money, who made calls, who slowed things down, who benefited. They also named Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent as the guy with tools to trace slows. Again, that's their assertion, but the concept is real. Financial records don't care about anybody's speeches. If investigators want truth, they chase bank trails, not press conferences. Next, you're going to hear a broader argument that this isn't just one scandal, it's a political machine problem. Watch how Elon Musk describes the district dynamic in Minnesota, because he's pointing at incentives, and incentives explain patterns even when people deny intent. According to Musk, the point is that a concentrated newer community can end up selecting representation based on identity loyalty, only a Somali, as he puts it. And he says other areas have a quieter version of the same effect. You don't have to agree with every word to understand the warning. When politics becomes a closed loop, accountability dies. And when accountability dies, fraud thrives, because the thieves know the referees won't blow the whistle. The answer isn't hating your neighbor. It's demanding equal standards, clean audits, and laws that apply the same to everyone. All right, now listen to the part that links benefits, border policy, and election rules into one pipeline. You'll hear claims about hotel spending, debit cards, and a timeline from asylum to citizenship. It's presented as a long-game strategy, and whether you buy it or not, the receipts they cite are about incentives and systems, not just personalities.
Congresswoman, Republicans have repeatedly stated that you committed immigration fraud. Are you at all worried about a formal investigation that could perhaps lead to your deportation?
Well, you're one of those people.
I don't know what that means, but are you at all concerned?
Do I look concerned?
I guess not.
Okay.
All right. What about the Minnesota fraud hearing? You didn't show up for that. Do you think you should have?
Why should I have?
Well, it happened in your state. Don't you want to defend your position?
There were people from my state that were there.
Okay, but why not you? I mean, there's allegations that you're complicit in the fraud. Wouldn't you want to show up to
Why would
defend
there be
yourself?
an allegation that I'm complicit? How would I be complicit?
Well, what about Tim
Do
Walz?
you just ask stupid questions? Is this your thing?
I'm curious to get your thoughts.
No,
I mean, there's a lot of controversy around the issue. $9 billion in fraud in the state of Minnesota.
$9 billion?
You don't think so?
Really?
Yeah, and counting. Probably more, honestly. You think that's fake news or what?
That is more than half of the resources that are allocated.
Okay.
So you genuinely, like, your brain has told you that it is possible for half of the resources.
I'm just going off of what
for
the
our public service to, like, half disappear, is what you're saying.
countless Minnesota state representatives, whistleblowers have come
listen
forward.
to yourself, though.
That segment
like-
argues the machine runs on three levers: keep benefits flowing, keep enforcement weak, and use relaxed voting rules to lock in power. It even claims FEMA money was used to house migrants in expensive hotels, and that $10,000 debit cards were handed out. Treat those as allegations that should be backed by documents, because numbers like that demand proof. What's fair to say is this: if taxpayers are funding services, the public has a right to itemized transparency. If states are changing voting safeguards, citizens have the right to clear rules and confidence that ballots match eligible voters. A country isn't mean for wanting order. A country is normal. Now we get to the moment that tells you how confident someone feels when the questions land in real life. You're about to hear a reporter confront Ilhan Omar directly about immigration fraud accusations and the possibility of an investigation. Focus on her posture and the way she answers. Not the spin, the instinct. When someone responds with, "Do I look concerned?" and you ask stupid questions, that's not a factual rebuttal. It's a brush-off. Maybe she thinks the questions are ridiculous. Fine. Then you calmly lay out facts and end it. But that exchange shows something else. A politician used to friendly coverage, suddenly facing hostile scrutiny. And in 2026 America, that shift matters, because the legacy press doesn't get to act like a protective detail anymore. If there's truly nothing there, transparency is easy. Stick with the second beat, because it moves from attitude to substance. The hearing, the money figure, the whistleblowers, and who's allegedly leaning on them. Listen for the line where she questions the basic math of half the resources disappearing. That's her trying to make the accusation sound absurd without answering the underlying question.
Just think about that for a second.
Maybe if you showed up at the hearing, you would know that whistleblowers are being retaliated against for exposing the fraud. Why is that? Why are they being tracked and traced?
Think about what you're asking. Who is tracing whistleblowers?
Minnesota state officials, Tim Walz, anyone who dares to speak out against the government.
Tim Walz is doing something to
Yeah,
whistleblowers?
why is Tim Walz stepping down if he's, innocent? Why isn't he running for re-election?
Because he's